Thanks for watching Lessons in Minutes with Jaylee. Like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.
For this session, we're going to look at the petty cash book, continue looking at the petty cash book. At the end of this lesson, we are going to be completing part 2 and 3 of this question, where you're asked to reimburse the petty cashier and then balance off at the end of October 2021. Remember, in our previous lesson, we had looked at where you were required to balance out the petty cash book and then reimburse. So this one is where you're going to reimburse and then balance off. So let's take a look at that demonstration. So here we have the question. Part 1 was already done, where you were required to enter up the petty cash book. And now we're going to move on to part 2. But before you move on to part 2, bear in mind that we have already total of the amount column, which would have been the credit side, and each analysis columns. So before you get into balancing off and reimbursing, or reimbursing and balance off, after entering out the petty cash book, remember you have to total up your amount column, which represents your credit side, and your respective analysis columns. So here we go in looking at part 2, where we are asked to reimburse. Bear in mind that you need to remember that the float is, which is the imprest on which the system is being operated, is $30. That is very important. You need to bear that in mind. Now, from what we have seen from the amount column, which represent the spending, the petty cashier has spent $24. Now, in order to reimburse, remember, you need to bear the float in mind. And the system is being operated on a $30 imprest, right? Now, if 24 was spent, it means that you need to reimburse the petty cashier what is needed to take it back to the agreed amount, which is the $30. But bear in mind that during the period, the petty cashier had received $2 from a telephone call. So under normal circumstance, if there wasn't anything that was received, then you would have reimbursed all of this $24. But because the $2 was already received, then it means that you are going to reimburse less. Because the 24 was spent and the petty cashier had received $2 already, you're going to reimburse only $22. So only $22 is needed now to restore the float. Okay, so in order to restore, remember that would be a debit entry because the petty cashier would be receiving that value. So on the receipt side, we're going to enter that 22, and our date is the end of October, which is October 31st. Our details, remember, this is cash, and we have completed that reimbursement process. Now we're going to move on to part 3, where you're asked to balance out the petty cash book. So in balancing off, if you notice on your debit side, we now have 10 plus 20, which is 30 plus 2, give us 32. And we're going to add this 22 to that, which the petty cashier had received. So the debit side is a total of $54. Now, our credit side is 24. And remember, when you're balancing off, what you want is that your debit and your credit side should be equal. So we want both sides to be equal. And if our credit side is saying $24, it means that what we need to balance of the petty cash book, which we're going to enter as our balance carried down, is $30. And we're entering this on the credit side under the amount column because remember, this is a side that is short. And our totals now are $54 for each side. To complete the balancing off process, at the beginning of the next month, which would be November 1st, our details is balance brought down and the amount is placed on the debit side, which is under the receipt column, which is opposite of the balance carried down, and that is $30. So here we can see that after balancing off, we have restored the float successfully. Remember, once you begin the period, you're to begin with that same value that is being used to operate the Imprest. If it is that you have less or if you have more, then it means that you have not completed a particular process accurately. All right. And that takes us to the end of restoring the Imprest, then balance off the petty cash book. If it is that you are asked to restore the Imprest, reimburse the petty cashier, then balance off, you have to give at the petty cashier what was spent, the amount that is needed to take the Imprest to the agreed float, and then you balance off. If it is that you are asked to balance off, it means that you're going to balance off and then you reimburse. So you can be asked to restore the Imprest at the end of the period. If you're asked to do that, it means that you're going to restore, which we have done in this lesson, and then balance off. Or if you're asked to restore at the beginning of the next period, it means that you are to balance off and then you restore the Imprest. Okay, so again, that takes us to the end of this session.
Like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.